The strong scent of bleach and pine cleaner clung to me like a second skin as I tossed my keys onto the worn-out kitchen counter. Midnight had come and gone. My lower back throbbed, my hands were dry and cracked, and all I could think about was a long, hot shower and just enough sleep to survive the next day. This was the life my family still believed I was trapped in, barely scraping by as a housekeeper, always one shift away from exhaustion. To them, I was the cautionary tale, the disappointment. And for years, I let them believe it. I stayed in the role they wrote for me, the quiet one, invisible, barely getting by. But what they never knew was that each floor I mopped, every bathroom I cleaned, was a stepping stone in a much bigger plan, one they could never begin to fathom. The answering machine's light blinked in the dark. 3 new messages. I hit play, already expecting the usual. "Hey Mandy," my sister Lisa sang in that syrupy tone of hers. "Just a heads up, Dad's birthday dinner is this Saturday. It starts at 6, not 7 like last year. Try not to be late again, okay?" Next. "Mandom, we're ordering from that upscale steakhouse, so maybe eat beforehand. I know it's probably outside your price range, sweetie." And the final one, Dad's familiar, gruff tone. "No weird thrift store presents this year. Just come, say happy birthday, and try not to make a scene." I stood motionless for a moment. Their words stung more than I wanted to admit. They probably thought they were being thoughtful, even generous. But every sentence dripped with condescension, reminding me of how low they assumed I still was. They didn't know about the 4 thriving businesses I owned under the radar. Or that I became a millionaire 5 years ago. Or that Forbes reached out just last week, asking to feature me in an article about anonymous entrepreneurs disrupting the home services industry. I hadn't replied, not because I was unsure, but because the time to step out of the shadows was finally here. And it all began 10 years ago, at that same birthday dinner where my father muttered, "Still cleaning other people's messes? Pathetic." Back then, I was 23, freshly heartbroken from a toxic relationship, broke and lost. I dropped out of college to care for my grandmother, the only person who ever truly believed in me. No one else in the family lifted a finger. They were busy with their polished careers in finance, law, marketing, the respectable fields. When Grandma died, I had nothing left. No degree, no money, no direction. I took the only job available, house cleaning. At first, it was just a way to pay rent. But one day, I got a new client, Evelyn Kane. She had old money, elegance, and the rare ability to see potential in others. "You're quick," she said after I reorganized her filing cabinet in under an hour. "Why waste your mind on cleaning?" I told her dreaming big was a luxury I couldn't afford. She just smiled and handed me a book, The Lean Startup. I read it cover to cover that same night. Then I found more like it and devoured them. Something inside me shifted. I started getting up earlier to study. I listened to business podcasts while I worked. I paid attention to the habits of the wealthy, what they delegated, how they structured their lives. And a spark turned into a vision. What if I built something more than a cleaning company? What if I created a luxury home services brand, efficient, elegant, tech-savvy, tailored to the very clients I worked for? So I did. I pinched every spare penny. I slept on a bare mattress in a tiny shared apartment. For months, my diet consisted of nothing but rice and eggs. After a year of 14-hour workdays, I finally launched Clarity Living, a premier home management company offering services from cleaning to personal concierge. I handpicked a team of experts trained in discretion, organization, and luxury standards. I didn't tell a soul. Not my parents. Not my siblings. I didn't need their skepticism or their doubt clouding my thoughts. I just kept pushing forward. 6 weeks after launching, I secured my first client, an investor in the tech industry from Beverly Hills. He referred me to 4 others. By the end of year 2, my team had grown to 12. By year 3, we expanded to New York. And by year 5, I was generating $10 million annually. But during those family dinners, I still let Lisa boast about her high-profile advertising role. I let Mom hand me coupons and Dad shake his head whenever I mentioned business or entrepreneurship. They believed I was weak, that I had failed. They had no idea I was quietly building an empire, far beyond anything they could conceive. Now, with a feature on Forbes set to air live on Sunday, the same day as Dad's birthday dinner, the moment of truth was finally approaching. They wouldn't see it coming. And I wouldn't say a word until they saw my face on the screen, under the headline, "Billionaire Housekeeper Turned CEO." The parking lot of the upscale Italian restaurant was already packed as I pulled in behind a sleek black Range Rover. I paused in my car for a moment, my hands resting on the wheel, watching the valet hustle back and forth under the soft golden glow of string lights. Technically, I didn't have to attend. I could have skipped the dinner and let the Sunday morning broadcast speak for itself. But part of me wanted to see their faces when everything came crashing down. I wanted to soak in every smirk, every sideways glance, so the truth would hit them like a freight train. And this was the last time they'd ever look at me like I was beneath them. I stepped out of my car, a modest, aging sedan I kept for appearances. No one would suspect that the woman driving it had a collection of high-end cars parked in a private garage across town. I handed the keys to the valet with a brief nod and walked into the restaurant. "Mandy." Lisa's voice rang out, dripping with insincerity. She stood up to greet me with open arms. "You're actually on time." I'm shocked. I forced a smile. "Happy birthday, Dad." He barely glanced up from the menu. "You look worn out. Long day cleaning." And there it was, the jab. The one he'd been waiting to deliver as soon as I walked in. He didn't even bother to hide the smirk. I felt a rush of heat in my chest but kept smiling. "You could say that." Mom leaned in, patting my hand. "We're just happy you could make it. We know your job keeps you so busy." Busy. That's what she called managing 3 regional directors and negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts with luxury developers on 2 continents. But sure. Busy. As the waiter came to take our orders, Lisa launched into her latest spiel about pitching a tech brand to a potential client. Something about influencer marketing. She tossed her hair back dramatically, clearly enjoying the spotlight. "So," she said, turning to me, "how's the cleaning business?" I sipped my water. "It's growing." Dad snorted into his whiskey. "Must be nice not to think. Just clean and go. Simple life." There was a time when that would have shattered me. When I would have gone home, crying into my pillow, second-guessing whether staying silent was the right choice. But not tonight. Tonight, I smiled and nodded. Simple, yes. But effective. The waiter returned with wine and appetizers, and the conversation shifted toward Olivia's new promotion at her marketing firm and Marcus' recent move to a bigger house. I patiently listened, as they congratulated themselves, throwing the occasional pitying glance in my direction. It felt almost rehearsed. Then, Lisa pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "Did you guys see the Forbes Sunday Spotlight airing tomorrow?" she said. "Apparently, they're doing a huge feature on a self-made billionaire. A woman, too. Former housekeeper, of all things. Can you believe that?" I nearly spat out my drink. "What's her name?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She tilted the screen slightly. "Mandy Ree." A brief silence settled over the table. My mother blinked. "Mandy Ree. Wait," Marcus said slowly. "Isn't that the same first name?" "Probably just a coincidence," Dad cut in, waving a hand dismissively. "No way. It's our Mandy," Lisa laughed. "Yeah, right. Can you imagine?" She pointed at me, her laughter growing louder. "From mopping floors to millions. No offense, sis, but you're not exactly Forbes material." "No offense taken," I replied with a small shrug. "You never know who's out there building in silence." The irony was nearly suffocating. They were sitting across from the very woman they'd soon see on national television the next morning. The same woman they'd belittled, ignored, and doubted. And they hadn't the slightest clue. The rest of the evening dragged on, filled with veiled insults, empty pleasantries, and overcooked steak. But I endured, knowing that tomorrow, everything would shift. After we sang happy birthday and posed for photos, I stood to leave. "Leaving already?" Dad asked, cutting into his tiramisu with the edge of his fork. "Early day tomorrow," I said. "Work never stops." "Still cleaning toilets?" he smirked. I smiled. "Something like that." As I walked toward the door, Lisa called after me. "Hey, bring gloves next time. Maybe you can clean my apartment while you're here." I paused, turned slightly, and gave her a smile that held both meaning and emptiness in equal measure. "See you tomorrow," I said. They thought I was referring to brunch. But I meant when their screens lit up with my face. When the world would finally know who I was, before my own family ever did, and when the Rolls-Royce parked out front would finally make sense. Sunday morning arrived crisp and clear, the sunlight spilling into my penthouse high above the city. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, coffee in hand, watching the world bustle below. Normally, Sundays were quiet, my time to recharge. But today was different. Today was showtime. I turned up the volume on the TV. It was 8:58 a.m., and the countdown for the Forbes Sunday Spotlight ticked down in the corner of the screen. I'd seen the final cut of the segment twice already. But this time, I was watching it live. Not for me, but for them. Because I knew exactly what my family was doing right now. Dragging themselves out of bed, brewing coffee, nursing mild hangovers from the birthday wine, and flipping on the news just in time to watch something that would shatter their perception of me. The intro music swelled. Today, we bring you the story of a woman who redefined success, built a billion-dollar empire from the ground up, and kept it all hidden, even from her own family. Meet Mandy Rhee, founder and CEO of Clarity Living. There it was. My name, my full name, spoken with weight and reverence. I took a breath. On screen, the camera panned across our Manhattan headquarters. Modern design. Glass walls. A logo that gleamed like gold. Then, a shot of me walking confidently through the lobby, dressed in a sharp white suit, heels clicking on the polished marble floors. My voice echoed over the footage. People thought I was just a housekeeper. They didn't know I was building an empire. The segment continued, showcasing testimonials from high-profile clients, interviews with my executive team, and even footage from the early days. Me scrubbing countertops, organizing storage closets, hand-printing flyers. Then came the moment of truth, a list of cities where Clarity Living now operated. New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, London, Dubai. 6 continents. Over 300 employees. A valuation of $3.2 billion. I could already picture their reactions. Dad dropping his coffee mug. Lisa's jaw going slack. Mom gasping loud enough to wake the neighbors. I'd given them no warning. No clues. Not a single hint. Then the final scene played, me stepping out of a sleek black Rolls-Royce, sunglasses on, as a reporter asked, "Why keep it a secret for so long?" I turned to the camera and smiled. Because success doesn't need validation. And sometimes, the sweetest part of the journey is watching those who doubted you realize they never truly knew you at all. Fade to black. I didn't even have to wait 5 minutes. My phone went into overdrive. Calls, texts, emails, voicemails, social media notifications, and then the group chat started blowing up. "Mom, Mandy, we just saw the news. Is this for real?" "Lisa, wait, what? Is this you? Why didn't you tell us?" "Marcus, no way, Mandy, you're on Forbes. How long has this been happening?" "Dad, we need to talk. Right now." I stared at my screen, letting the messages accumulate. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't mind. I walked to the garage, my phone buzzing relentlessly in my hand. My actual car, a 2024 Rolls-Royce Ghost, glowed under the garage lights. I slid into the driver's seat and turned on the engine. They had questions, of course. But I had answers. And today, they weren't going to get them through a text or an awkward phone call. They were going to see it. Feel it. Because today, I was heading to the very people who had mocked me just hours ago. This time, in a car they'd only dreamed of, wearing clothes from designers they couldn't even pronounce. And walking in, not as the family embarrassment, but as the woman the world was suddenly talking about. As I drove through the familiar suburban streets toward my parents' house, memories flooded back. The years spent holding back. The family dinners. The smug comments. The countless times I'd bitten my tongue instead of revealing the truth. I didn't regret the silence. That anonymity had given me clarity, room to grow. But now it was time to speak with authority. I turned onto their street, the same tree-lined cul-de-sac I once left behind with nothing but a duffel bag and no clear plan. Kids played outside. Neighbors watered their lawns. I could almost hear the whispers that would begin when they saw the Rolls-Royce pull up. I parked in front of the house, took a deep breath, and stepped into the sunlight. Mom opened the door before I even reached the steps. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock, her mascara slightly smudged. "Mandy," she whispered. "Is it all true?" I smiled softly and held up my phone, where the Forbes headlines still glowed. "You tell me." The air in the house felt thick, heavy with tension, as if the walls were waiting for something. Mom stepped back as I walked into the foyer, her eyes scanning me like she was trying to comprehend what was happening. She hadn't slept. Her blouse was wrinkled, her hair hastily pinned back, and her voice wavered as she asked, "Why didn't you tell us, Mandy?" Before I could respond, Dad appeared in the hallway, his gaze fixed on mine. For the first time in my life, he seemed uncertain about what to say. "Mandy," he began. "What the hell is going on?" I walked past them both, heading for the living room, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. I sat down on the same couch where I'd once curled up as a teenager, grounded for refusing to change my major. The same couch where Dad told me I was wasting my life when I turned down a receptionist position at his friend's insurance company. Now, I was worth more than his entire network of colleagues put together. Mom and Dad followed me in. Dad stood rigid, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. Mom sank into the armchair, as if her legs couldn't support her anymore. 15 minutes later, Lisa and Marcus arrived, having clearly read all the messages in the family group chat. Lisa looked flustered, her designer purse swinging from her arm like an accessory she wasn't sure how to use anymore. "Mandy," she said, breathless. "All this time you've been, what? Living a double life." Marcus sat down across from me, blinking in disbelief. "I googled you, Mandy Ree. It's all real. You're clarity living." I nodded calmly. "Yes, I am." But you let us think you were struggling," Lisa said. "You let us believe you were broke." "No," I corrected her. "You chose to believe that. I never said I was broke. I just didn't correct your assumptions." "You drove that old car," Dad snapped. "You wore second-hand clothes. You asked us to ease up on your birthday gifts. What were we supposed to think? That maybe I didn't care about appearances?" I offered. That I didn't need labels or luxury to feel valuable. Lisa scoffed. "That's rich coming from someone who just pulled up in a Rolls-Royce." I leaned in slightly. "The car wasn't for me. It was for you, so you'd finally see me. Let's face it, if I'd shown up in my work clothes from the company I run, or mentioned that I was investing in real estate across 3 countries, you wouldn't have believed me." Dad opened his mouth, but for once, no words came out. "You know what really stung?" I said quietly, not breaking eye contact. "It wasn't the assumptions. It was how easy it was for all of you to believe that I had failed. None of you ever asked about what I cared about, what I was working on. It was easier to mock the housekeeper than think I could have dreams worth pursuing." A heavy silence filled the room. Marcus finally spoke. "But why keep it all a secret? Why didn't you tell us? We're your family." I turned slowly to face him. Do you remember when Grandma got sick? I dropped out of school to care for her. You all called me irresponsible, said I was throwing my future away. But I didn't care. I owed her everything. She believed in me when no one else did. When she passed, I had nothing. Not one of you offered help. No place to stay. Not even a word of encouragement. Mom winced but didn't argue. So I started working, cleaning houses. One of my clients saw something in me. She gave me a book and an opportunity. That opportunity turned into an idea. The idea became a business. And that business grew into a global brand. I paused, letting the silence linger. I didn't tell you because I didn't need to fight for your approval. I wanted to build something for myself. And now that I have, now that the world knows, I wanted you to see it, not just hear about it. See it. Lisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I thought you were just searching for yourself. I found myself a long time ago, I said. You just never looked close enough to see. Dad finally sat down, his posture deflated. So now what? You're just going to rub it in our faces. No, Dad, I said, my voice steady. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here because, for once, I want you to truly know who I am. And tonight, we're going to dinner at the Paramount. Lisa's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. The Paramount? The exclusive place with the 6-month wait list. I own it now, I replied casually. And I've reserved it for us. Private chef, full staff, top floor. We're going to sit at a table together, but this time, the conversation will be different. Mom's eyes welled with tears. We don't deserve this. I smiled softly. Maybe not. But I didn't do all of this to punish you. I did it to prove a point. That success doesn't always make a loud entrance. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and then, when the time is right, it reveals itself on its own terms. The elevator ride up to the top floor of the Paramount was silent. My family stood around me, uneasy, their reflections staring back at them in the mirrored walls of the lift. They didn't quite recognize the versions of themselves they saw. Even Lisa, who usually thrived in social settings, clutched her purse tightly, her eyes darting around the opulent interior. She hadn't said a word since we'd arrived. When the elevator doors opened, a private host greeted us with a courteous smile. Welcome, Ms. Ree. The dining room is ready. We entered the space I had redesigned just 2 months ago. Glass walls offered sweeping views of the city skyline. A long black marble table illuminated by soft pendant lights. A string quartet playing gently in the background. The room radiated elegance, but tonight, it wasn't about flaunting wealth. It was about clarity. They needed to see, without a doubt, who I had become. The server gestured for everyone to sit. As we settled into our places, Mom leaned in close. Mandy, this place is breathtaking. I nodded with a serene smile. It's my favorite view in the city. It reminds me of how far I've come. Dad cleared his throat, his eyes scanning the room. This is a lot. It's not about showing off, I replied. It's about showing you what you never saw. The servers moved silently, placing custom menus in front of each guest, their names embossed in gold foil. Next to each plate, I had placed a sealed envelope. I waited until the wine had been poured, and the first course, lobster risotto, had been set in front of us. Then I spoke. Before we begin, I'd like everyone to open the envelope in front of them. They exchanged confused looks, but, one by one, they carefully opened their envelopes. Lisa was the first to react. Inside her envelope was a simple chart, 2 columns, Lisa's salary and Mandy's daily passive income. The second column far exceeded the first. At the bottom was a polite footnote. This is just from 2 of my 8 revenue streams. Her hands shook as she folded the paper and placed it down. Marcus's envelope contained an email from 4 years ago, when I had quietly reached out to his company under an alias, offering an investment opportunity in Clarity Living. His response, filled with corporate jargon, politely declined, stating, "Home services are not scalable." Below it, a note. That $100,000 opportunity would be worth $17.4 million today. He looked up at me, his face drained of color. "Mandy. I didn't realize it was you." "I know," I replied. "That's why I never took it personally." Mom's envelope held a list of every time I had asked her and Dad to believe in me, to back an idea, to attend a gallery show when I was cleaning houses to fund my art, to co-sign a loan for startup capital. All declined. Tucked inside was a photo of my first office space, small, modest, and completely self-funded. Her eyes filled with tears. Dad's envelope was the thinnest, just a single sheet. A screenshot of the Forbes front page. He stared at it for a long while, his jaw clenched. Finally, his voice was quieter than usual as he spoke. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know my own daughter." I met his gaze. "You saw what you wanted to see, Dad. A daughter who didn't follow your rules. So instead of asking why, you assumed I was lost." He nodded slowly, and for the first time in my adult life, my father looked genuinely remorseful. The rest of dinner passed in a still silence. No boasting, no lectures, just reflection. After dessert, chocolate souffle with raspberry drizzle, I stood and walked toward the large screen behind the table. "I want to show you something," I said. The lights dimmed, and a presentation began. Photos from my journey appeared on the screen. Me cleaning houses. Me sleeping on the floor with books piled around me. The tiny office where Clarity Living was born. My first company retreat. My first Forbes cover. My first apartment with central heating. Each image was paired with a headline, some from the media, some from old texts and emails from my family. "You're throwing your life away. Maybe try community college next semester. Mandy needs to get real." Then the final frame came into view, a photo of me at 23, smiling with my grandmother in our old kitchen, side by side. Below it, "She believed in me when no one else did." I turned to face them. This wasn't about revenge. It's about truth. I'm not angry anymore. I don't need apologies. But I do need you to stop pretending I was ever less than. No one spoke for a long time. Then my mother stood, walked over to me, and silent tears began to fall. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Not just for not seeing you, but for not looking in the first place." I embraced her tightly. "Thank you. That's all I ever wanted." As the music swelled and the city lights twinkled behind us, I realized this wasn't just a dinner. It was a reckoning. And perhaps the beginning of something new. A week had passed since that dinner at the Paramount, and the world hadn't stopped talking. Articles were still going viral. My inbox overflowed with partnership offers, memoir proposals, podcast invites, investment opportunities. I had been named one of Forbes's most influential women of the year, and I was now booked for a keynote speech at a global innovation summit. But the spotlight wasn't what kept me awake at night. It was the stillness. The calm after the storm. The strange peace that follows a lifetime of noise. Of proving, of chasing something only to show others you could. And then realizing you've already reached your destination. I sat on the terrace of my brownstone, the one my family didn't know about. It was simpler than the penthouse, quieter. Ivy clung to the walls, and the sound of a stone fountain bubbled softly nearby. My dog, Luna, an old rescue with a gentle soul, lay curled beside me. She didn't care about net worths or business empires, just that I was home. The phone buzzed beside me. It was a text from Dad. "Saw your TED Talk. You were incredible. Wish I'd listened to you sooner. Proud of you, Mandy. Truly." I stared at the message for a long moment, unsure how to reply. It didn't undo everything, the years of condescension, the dismissal. But it was something. A start. A bridge being built, delicately, but with purpose. A notification popped up. Forbes interview live in 20 minutes. I glanced at the clock. Just enough time. I walked inside and changed into a simple blouse and jeans. No stylists, no prep team, no designer heels. Just me. Because after everything, I'd finally earned the right to be fully myself, on camera or off. I joined the virtual call, and the host greeted me with a grin. "Mandy Ree, thanks for being here." "Glad to be here," I replied. "We've had an amazing response to your story," he continued. "Millions have watched your journey unfold. But one question keeps coming up. What kept you going when it seemed like everyone, especially your own family, doubted you?" I paused for a moment, then smiled. "You don't need everyone to believe in you. Just one person. And sometimes, that one person has to be you." He nodded. "And if you could go back and say something to your younger self, back in that tiny apartment, cleaning houses, what would you say?" I felt a lump form in my throat. I'd tell her it's okay to feel invisible. Sometimes, being invisible is a gift. It lets you build without pressure, grow without judgment, rise without interference. And when the time is right, you won't need to announce your success. You'll just show up, and the world will have no choice but to see you. The interview ended, and I sat in silence again, letting everything settle. That afternoon, I drove to the cemetery. It had been a while since my last visit. The sun filtered through the trees as I stood in front of my grandmother's grave. I brushed away some fallen leaves from the headstone and placed fresh tulips in the vase, her favorite. "Hi, Grandma," I whispered. "You were right about everything." I pulled out the original flyer for Clarity Living from my purse, the one I had printed 10 years ago at a 24-hour coffee shop, trembling with equal parts doubt and hope. I placed it gently against the stone and whispered, "We made it." That evening, back in the penthouse, I hosted a small dinner. Not for investors. Not for the press. Just friends. People who had believed in me when I had nothing to offer but ambition. My first employee. My best friend from college. Evelyn Kane, the woman who gave me the lean startup and saw potential in the cleaning girl others overlooked. We laughed, shared wine, and talked about the future. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had anything to prove. Later, as I gazed out over the sparkling skyline, my phone buzzed again. A new message in the family group chat. "Mom, next Sunday it's our turn. Family dinner at our place. You don't have to bring anything. Just yourself. And if it's okay, maybe you could tell us more about what you've been building. We want to learn." Finally. I smiled. There was no victory parade, no confetti raining down. Just quiet understanding. And a slow, steady unraveling of the old narrative they had written about me. Because I hadn't just changed my life. I had rewritten the story. From overlooked housekeeper to self-made mogul. From invisible daughter to undeniable force. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful kind of revenge is simply becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.